Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odell's Legends. My name is Art Tipadi. I'm the editor of Blues Music Magazine, and I'd ask you to check us out. We're either online at bluesmusicmag.com or you can check us out at Barnes & Noble, where hopefully our magazine is right up front center. Well, today we have quite an exciting group here. We have something called Gumbo Grits Gravy, and no, it's not a cooking show. You are not on the cooking channel. This is a show that combines Americana music in a very unique way. And we're going to start today by talking to the manager of this band, the man who came up with the concept, Thom Wolke. Thom, welcome.
So good to see you again, Art.
Good
I haven't seen you in way too long.
I know, the pandemic does that. Huh?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here today.
Well,
I've been wanting to work with you guys for quite a while, and our shout out to our good friend, Professor Louis, for really pushing it along.
That's cool. Well, Louis has been here often.
So
this is one of
my
his
hats
favorite
off
stuff.
to Louis.
Cool. Well, let's start by we're going to bring the musicians in and have them talk about the musical weave that they do. But can you talk a little bit about where did this concept of Gumbo Grits and Gravy come from?
Well, I am tinkered with the idea. Really, the credit for the name Gumbo Grits and Gravy goes to a woman named Cash Edwards. And Cash was a manager, booking agent in our world of folk, blues, Americana music a long time ago. And when she announced her retirement, I had reached out to her. She put together a package deal, and she called it Gumbo Grits and Gravy, and it was 3 artists. It was Guy Davis, Laurie Lewis, and Christina Balfa.
Okay.
And the 3 different artists performed together for a small tour down south, and they each played their own set.
Okay.
And for one reason or another, that idea dissolved. And when Cash retired, I joked with her. I said, I thought we were going to do another Gumbo Grits and Gravy tour, because I've been managing Guy Davis for a long, long time.
Sure.
And so she joked and she said, "Nope, I'm retiring. You can have the name. Good luck." And so for several years, it was always in the back of my mind. It was a back burner project. How can I get a Gumbo Grits and Gravy together? And several years ago, 2017, 2018, sometime around then, I reached out to Ann Harris, who actually sat in with Guy at a gig in L.A. And I said, and I was talking to Guy about, let's reconstitute Gumbo Grits and Gravy. So when he told me that he had fun playing with Ann, I said, what do you think about having Ann be part of a Gumbo? And he's like, yes.
Oh, cool. Yes, yes.
And so Ann was delighted to be, when I contacted her. And actually, I had reached out to another woman down in Louisiana. I'll leave her name out of this story for now. Protect the innocent.
Yeah. Right.
And wonderful performer. And she was into the idea. She was mulling it over. And then I happened to call Cynthia Simeon, wife and manager of the great Zydeco artist Terrence Simeon. I said, listen, I'm putting together this project, and I wonder if you know a cool roadhouse that I could film in Louisiana. And she goes, what is this? And I told her, Gumbo Grits and Gravy. She's like, what about my daughter, Marcella?
Wow.
I said,
that's cool.
Well, and I talked it over with Guy for a while, and we thought about it. And then we said, sure, Marcella, which was disappointing to the other woman who had come around and said, yeah, I might do this.
Yeah.
But, it just fell that way.
Right.
And so we put together Gumbo Grits and Gravy with Marcella Simeon, Ann Harris, and Guy Davis. And we did, the first gig we did was the Lucerne Blues Festival in Switzerland.
Right.
Then we did the Blues Cruise, which I think is where you got to witness them.
I saw them at Lucerne too.
Oh, that's
because
correct.
I remember you all were rehearsing for the first time, getting everybody together, kind of
in my hotel
in your
room.
hotel room in the Schweizerhof. And then I saw them on the Blues Cruise, and then I saw them up at Paul Benjamin's.
The North Atlantic Blues Festival. So that of course, COVID came along and it skewed all kinds of problems, and then of course, one of the things about Gumbo Grits and Gravy is it's three individuals who have their own solo careers.
Right.
I mean, Ann and Marcella. Ann is also not only doing some of her own stuff, but she's everyone's favorite utility player.
Sure.
And Marcella was getting things started, had a new manager and all that, and so it seemed like a natural progression. And I need to emphasize that Gumbo Grits and Gravy is not personality driven. Even Guy Davis, having now been in 3 versions of Gumbo Grits and Gravy, it's not personality driven. It's not required that Guy even be a part of it. I think of it almost like along the lines of the Carolina Chocolate Drops or Room Full of Blues. What's important is that the 3 artists come together, and unlike the very first version with Laurie Lewis and Christina Balfa and Guy, they didn't really interact much. They did a half a dozen shows, and it was just go on stage, do your show. Go on stage, do your show. To me, what Gumbo Grits and Gravy is about was throw it all in the pot and blend it together and see what you get. Okay. And so you get this, hopefully a nice tasty meal out of it. Nice. And so it's getting the current lineup with Walter Parks and Bruce Molsky and Guy Davis to take their talents and say, where are we going to go with this? What's fun with this? Yeah, good. And so that's where we're at now, and what your viewers will get to see is the wonderful music they're making, which I must say, this is very, very early in this lineup.
Little lifetime.
They had 2 sort of little baby gigs to get it started, so that we could be here with you and do a beautiful job.
Very nice. Well, thank you, Thom. And with that, we're going to end this and then bring in Bruce, Walter, and Guy.
Yeah, well, I hope you have a blast. And thank you once again for having us here.
You're welcome. Good. Thanks, Thom. Yep. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Don Odell's Legends. I'm Art Tipaldi, editor of Blues Music Magazine, and we've just spoken with the manager of Gumbo Grits and Gravy, Thom Wolke, and we have the band Gumbo Grits and Gravy before us. We start over here on my right with Bruce Molsky. Bruce is a fiddler, banjo player, and guitarist. He's got 2 Grammy nominations. He's played with Mark Knopfler, Jerry Douglas, the great bluegrass player, and John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, and he's been called the master of old-time mountain music from Appalachia. In the middle, we have Walter Parks, a master of American hymns, hollers, and reels, and you have played, again, with a number of people. Richie Havens, guitar player in the last 10 or so years of his life.
Yeah, it was such an honor, and I felt like I had the best seat in the house. No matter where we were playing, and just to be able to look to my left and see him, and not just on stage, but all the experiences that I gathered from that time. He taught me so much, and I'm very grateful for it.
And now your latest project is with the great soul drummer Bernard Purdie, correct?
I play with Bernard occasionally in New York, and actually we've done some touring down south as well.
Very nice, very nice.
He's, he just lays it down so solid. And
Memphis Soul Stew. Yeah, very cool. And over here on my left would be Guy Davis. 2 Grammy nominations recently, like over 25 Blues Music Award nominations, including Album of the Year, Song of the Year. I know Guy very well, and every album you do is just a masterpiece of songwriting and clever lyrics and history. And I would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that you are the son of the great civil rights activists and actors, Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee. So we are thrilled to have you here. In March of 2000, Guy came and played for my students, and he excited them as much as B.B. King did. I mean, I still have the little camcorder thing that we did, and you were up there teaching him the work song, and he had him up dancing and singing, and he was a joy. But anyway, we're here for Gumbo Grits and Gravy. We heard about the concept of the group. How do you guys now take that concept and mission and breathe life into it on the stage?
Well, how would you take 3 individuals with different musical backgrounds and find that common ground?
Okay.
And I know for me, my roots being in I'm not from the South, but I play Southern Appalachian music and blues, and I play a lot of music from different places around the world. And I'm looking for confluence. I'm looking for the vibe.
Right.
And I've been familiar with Guy's music for quite a while, and we have a lot of common interest in the people that we like to listen to and our heroes. And I'm just getting to know Walter, and I'm falling in love with his music, and he's dragging me into being a little bit more of a rocker than I was before, and
Right.
I'm just kind of realizing that maybe I've been missing something, you know. But yeah, I mean, I did record with Mark Knopfler on his CD Tracker a few years
Right,
ago, and
yeah.
got to play banjo and fiddle, and I even got to play guitar on a Mark Knopfler album, which
how?
is marginally scary,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
was quite an experience.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, just to be with these fellas and just throw all of our cards, our musical ideas on the table, and just try. We're in trying mode right
Yeah,
now. It
yeah.
feels really good.
Guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Art, what you got here is three musicians who listen, not just to
Okay.
everything else, but to each other. And it is exciting because it makes that which is old new again.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I first met Walter probably coming and going through an airport when he was doing Richie Havens, everything else that Richie didn't touch.
Yeah.
But I was very excited by this man who Richie Havens chose to be his sideman, because what Richie
Yeah, I
doesn't
know.
need anymore, but he chose
Right.
to make a sound. And Walter expanded that so beautifully, and he does the same in this group. This man is loaded with ideas.
Right, right.
Like,
Yeah.
see that beard? It's full of ideas. And
Yeah.
Bruce, I first heard, we were in Katoomba, Australia.
Wow.
And
Remember
in
that
the Blue
story?
Mountains, and I heard somebody playing Blind Blake on the second floor of a hotel.
Wow.
And the window was open.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to. So I just ran upstairs. His door was open.
Yeah.
We met.
I was sitting on the side of the bed and playing fingerstyle guitar, and in walks this guy, and he just walked into my room, sat down on the bed across from me, and started playing with me.
Right, right.
And that was kind of the beginning of the end, you know.
Yeah. Wow. Now you guys are young in this group of Gumbo Grits and Gravy.
We're just young.
You're just
Yeah,
you're little puppies out there. What are the challenges that the band is faced and overcome?
I mean, artistically or logistically?
How about artistically?
Well, I think we come from it's a contrast of backgrounds and influences and there's ironies. I mean, Bruce said that in his heart, his interest was Appalachian style music, even though I grew up in the South.
Right.
I never liked that kind of music.
Yeah.
And my family just never, we considered it just what the working folks do and so on. And then so I've come at it from the reverse. I loved rock and roll when I was a kid, and of course Southern rock. And you just listen to it, and all of a sudden you get curious the older you get. And so I kind of went at it backwards,
yeah.
as they say down south, backwards. And so it's been a challenge for me, and a wonderful challenge, because what I thought was subordinate culturally is something that resonates with me in my heart easier than any music that I've ever done.
Right. Wow.
And so imagine if we can convey that to people who are listening, to say, I've got some commonality here. You guys are Delta blues on stage.
Yeah.
You guys are spirituals. You guys are real Appalachian reels. And so we feel like we're bringing the whole Americana picture
Yeah.
to whoever's listening. And whatever their background is, we're saying, you got all of this in you.
Right.
You got all of this in you, and we're here to prove it. So here it is.
Yeah.
You know.
You just answered all my questions. I was going to say, why is it important to breathe life into this old-timey Appalachian blues music in the 22nd century? Is that word? Or 21st century? Why is it important to do that?
I say it's important. That is what keeps the music alive. Yes, we've heard recordings of very old-time music, very obscure stuff, but it takes living musicians to make it be alive.
Yeah.
We have reference copies, and the master, what we listen to is treasure. But when you play it live, people get a little spark of that spirit that goes from that original recording through a performer.
That's cool.
Out onto the stage.
Yeah.
And understand, we don't know the end of what we're doing, what that's going to be necessarily.
Right.
We get to listen and get excited by new things that our ears might not expect. Just amongst ourselves. We're sitting up in Bruce's house yesterday, and he starts on this guitar piece with no words, no introduction, and the next thing we are all playing.
Right.
You have to find out the name of it afterwards. That's the excitement. That is the life.
Yeah.
And what that does, man, when people see that, a little light goes on in them too.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to come up and say, man, I want to learn that.
Yeah. You must be involved in a whole history lesson between all three of you, with each one sort of explaining your expertise to the other two members, or, you know, your expertise of blues, the depth of it to these guys, and then you adding your whole ingredients into the gumbo.
Well, we haven't figured out who's gumbo, who's grits, and who's gravy yet. And that could be a moving target as we grow. But for me, you know, just to piggyback on what Guy was saying, you know, my motivation is everything that both of you said, but it's also selfish, which is that, you know, as primarily a solo performer, which I am, the thing that makes me feel like it's working is when can establish a connection with the audience and draw them into my musical space, which is a very spiritual place for me. And so it's a double whammy for me, because I know that even in the first couple of shows that we've done, we've drawn the audience into our space.
Right.
And that is really uplifting for me, but also I get to be in that beautiful space with these guys, and it's making my world a little bit bigger, and hopefully making things, you know, making our sound something that that just turns people on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
I get excited when I play.
Sure.
And when it's happening, and I want people, you know, I don't expect people to people know me as a fiddler, and they say, you know, the fiddlers in the audience will say, "Oh, what's he doing with the bow?"
Right.
Yeah, I don't want them to see that.
Yeah.
I want them to see the joy, and that's where it's at for me.
That's cool. Sure,
You know.
sure. Do you find, is the name Gumbo Grits and Gravy confining, or is it expansive?
Don't know how to put that. The name. My manager, Thom Wolke, first heard that name back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, I got involved in one incarnation of the group
Yeah.
and another incarnation.
Right.
And what I go by is Thom is very intuitive when it comes to insight as to why don't you put these ingredients together and see what happens on stage.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say it's confining or liberating. Right now, it's what our name is.
Yeah, okay. So you don't have to find songs that are part of each one of those three.
You know, we've never discussed this, but I don't feel that because we're in a group called Gumbo Grits and Gravy that we need to work toward making that name make sense.
Right, good,
You know,
sure.
I think it's the opposite.
Sure,
It could
sure.
turn out to be, you know, Corvettes, bicycles, and tuna sandwiches. I don't know.
And which one of you is the tuna sandwich?
Sandwich.
Yeah.
Ham, actually.
Yeah. How about the choice of song? Can you talk about the importance of the songs you choose in the Americana genre?
We all contributed. Initially, we all said, look, let's bring something to the table. What we're starting with, Art, is our own individual strengths and where we've already been. But what we're hoping is contagious, infectious, and demonstrates to everybody is how we can all thread this into something that works as a unique presentation. I think, you know, Bruce is in it for the connection with the audience. And one of the things that excites me the most is artistic style. That's my passion, is trying to figure out, okay, we have elements, how do we make this our own?
Okay.
And I think everybody who's out there listening is trying to do the same thing. It doesn't matter if they're an accountant or if they shine shoes. They want to have their own way of doing it.
Yeah.
And they're happier when they have just their own indelible way of getting through life. And that's what we're trying to do with this. I bring songs that I had from my thing,
Right.
my swampy Florida thing. And Bruce brought his, Guy brought his, and now we're saying, let's make a style out of all of that. So that's the most passionate part of it for me, is trying to figure out what we can do with all these influences.
Right.
It's like we're not trying to get to the end of something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not going to get to the end of the internet.
Right.
I think this is always, as we develop and discover each other's interests and strengths, that it's always going to be a moving target. And I'm a big fan of the Buddhist adage that you're always a beginner.
Right.
There's way more that you don't know that you're going to know.
Yeah.
And that's a place I'm happy to be, especially with these guys.
Yeah. Okay.
And fitting in together is a natural happenstance once we get moving.
Right.
But I think in our attitudes of creativity, I think we seek to be fuller individuals in our music, in our way of relating to each other. And when the others hear it, okay, yeah, let's see how this sounds. Put that in, that, and we each get to contribute.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the worst of democracy, baby.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody in charge to say, stop. You've been rehearsing for 40 days.
It's anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you all feel, with the vast songbook to choose from, a certain responsibility to that songbook to, in some ways, stay true to the originals of it, but also expand it?
I teach at Berklee College of Music
Oh, yeah,
in
right
the
up-
American
yeah.
Roots Music program.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing for somebody like me who's been around with the block with this music to impart to my students.
Right.
Because they can take the simplest broad brush kind of elements of all this old music and use it,
Right.
you know, for their own creative process.
Right.
But it's not nearly as good or respectful of tradition
Respectful. Yeah.
as it would be if they, and I make them dig into where, you know, listen to these old recordings.
Right.
Listen to these old artists.
Yeah.
Take one thing and listen to it so many times till you can't stand it anymore because you're going to hear things. And let those things kind of by osmosis come into your
own
musical experience
yeah.
and your expression. Guy
Right.
does that beautifully in his song, right?
Sure.
And Walter too.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm learning some cool new tunes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
that. You know, playing is I don't know if you guys would agree, but I think playing is about references. And when I play a fiddle tune, I'm thinking of the people who I learned that tune from, and taking what I think are the most beautiful or accessible part of those references and putting them in my playing. And I hope anybody that has a background in this stuff will hear, oh man, Benton Flippin did that, Tommy Jarrell did that, Eddie Anthony did that.
Cool.
I get excited about all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell on Bruce, though. Yes, he makes those references to things that are there, things that are true, things that we've heard.
Right.
But it sneaks up on him, and he starts creating ways to say the same old thing.
Yeah.
And you accidentally play some beautiful passage that we can only reference to you. I've heard it. I was in your living room when we did it.
Yeah.
I was eating your
I hope I can
your
play it
wife's
again.
tuna fish.
I hope I can do it again. Yeah.
Oh, I did want to add about
Yeah.
tradition and trying to use that as your sort of benchmark, so to speak. When I played with Richie Havens for the last 10 years of his career, when he retired and passed away, I'm like, what the heck do I do with myself?
Yeah.
I've had all my eggs in that basket. And I just asked myself, what have been my experiences that maybe other people haven't had? And I went back, in my mind at least, to where I grew up. Went to the Library of Congress, found some music that was made out in the swamp, the Okefenokee swamp, near where I grew up. Point is, when I first started delving into this swamp music, I said to myself, I want to learn more about this, but this is new for me.
Right.
But I want to be respectful. And I went down and I found some of the old timers who were on original 1940 recordings, and they were still alive.
Wow.
And I thought they were going to be very cautious of me, almost dismissive. And it was not that at all. I'm very concerned and conscious of being a trespasser on heritage.
Wow.
And I went down and I spoke to as many of these people as were still alive and still had something to do with some of those original Library of Congress tapes. And they were so happy that I was even given life to some of these songs. And I would put out these disclaimers. Now I'm doing this with an electric guitar now, and it's like they didn't care.
Yeah.
As long as I was listening to the original recordings, and as long as I could play. I remember I talked to one of the old swampers who lived in there, and I came up to him and said, "Hi, Mr. Chester, I'm Walter Parks." He goes, "Can you yodel?" Yeah, that's all. That was the first thing he wanted to know. He didn't. That was it. Let's get the credentials for that right out of the bat.
Yeah,
So,
I don't care about all those degrees you have and who you played
but
with.
It's yes, we
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're taking tradition and we're giving it legs into
Right.
the future. I think.
Yeah.
And
I think the show is also a nice throwback to that front porch, back porch kind of place where American music was born. And it's you're out of the studios, you're out of the clubs, you're out of the saloons, you're out of the festivals. But this Gumbo Grits and Gravy, I think, harkens back to the days when families had musicians and sat on the porch and played, and that was your entertainment.
Well, if we can maintain that vibe, which is what I feel when I play with Guy and Walter, if we can take that onto a stage and not lose it in the miasma of performance and just be ourselves, I'll be the happiest.
That's magic.
Yeah.
That's magic. Yeah.
I want to say one thing. You talked about the porch, and during the performance, when y'all come out to see Gumbo Grits and Gravy, you're going to hear a kind of a foot stomping sound, and I trigger that from an electronic pad.
Okay.
You look if you looked at it, you go, okay, this guy bought something that was made in China or Japan.
Yeah.
The device is made over there, but the sound I recorded by putting a microphone underneath an old log cabin porch in the Okefenokee Swamp.
Wow.
And I recorded that and loaded it into my little foot pedal. So you're actually hearing an old you're actually hearing an old log cabin front porch foot
Oh my
stomp.
gosh. Oh God.
But
well, I know our audience tonight is going to be thrilled with it. I know you guys are heading over to Denmark to play one of their largest festivals, and that's going to give you a chance. It's a big stage, right? There, and that's going to give you a chance to not only touch those people in front, but touch them all the way back with this wonderful set. So we thank you very much. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Gumbo Grits and Gravy. We have Bruce Molsky, we have Walter Parks, and we have Guy Davis, the triumvirate of American roots music, whatever. It is. I'm thrilled and looking forward to it. I love this kind of sound. Thank you.